Have you ever abandoned something you were passionate about, only to discover later that you were merely inches from achieving it? Perhaps you discontinued learning a new ability right before everything clicked into place. Perhaps you closed down a venture just weeks before it would have flourished. Or perhaps you turned your back on an aspiration when triumph was nearer than you could have possibly known. If you've experienced the anguish of surrendering prematurely, if you've pondered what if I had persisted just once more, then this narrative will transform your perspective on setbacks permanently. Because there was once a person who was excavating for water. He dug for weeks, discovered nothing, and surrendered. What he didn't realize was that he ceased just 4 inches from the most massive underground spring in the whole territory. This is his narrative, and it could be yours as well. Remain with me until the conclusion. In a modest farming community where precipitation had not descended for 3 years, there resided a person named Ethan. He was 35 years of age, a diligent farmer with roughened hands and a weary spirit. Ethan's farm was perishing. The vegetation shriveled beneath the unforgiving sun. The livestock grew gaunt. His 2 young offspring inquired every day, "Papa, when will we possess water again?" And every day, Ethan had no response. The community had one well distributed among 50 households. But the well was almost depleted. Residents waited in queue for hours merely to fill one container. Disputes erupted. Neighbors who had been companions for decades now protected their water possessively. Ethan couldn't endure witnessing his children's parched faces any longer. He made a choice that would alter everything. "I will excavate my own well," he declared to his wife one evening. His wife, Maria, gazed at him with concern. "Ethan, others have attempted. They dug for weeks and discovered nothing. The terrain here is firm. The water is profound. Maybe we should simply relocate to the metropolis." But Ethan shook his head. "I cannot provide my children a life of surrendering. I must attempt." The following morning, before daybreak, Ethan commenced to dig. He selected a location near the boundary of his land where the ground seemed marginally softer. He thrust his shovel into the terrain and heard the sound that would become the cadence of his existence for the next 10 weeks, the scraping of metal against firm soil. Dig, lift, discard, repeat. His neighbors observed from their windows. Some murmured behind his back, though Ethan was too proud to inquire the elders about the chronicle of that land. "Poor Ethan," they stated. "Old man Bertram attempted that location years ago and discovered nothing. But Ethan is too obstinate to listen." But Ethan didn't hear them. He simply continued digging. 1 foot deep, 2 feet, 3 feet. Still no water. His hands developed blisters. The blisters ruptured and bled. His back ached so severely that some mornings he could scarcely stand. But every time he contemplated ceasing, he recalled his daughter's voice inquiring, "Papa, will there be water today?" And he continued digging. Each day, he fastened a knot in the rope at ground level to document his advancement. 1 knot, 2 knots, 5 knots, 10 knots. Each one a foot deeper into the ground. Weeks transformed into months. Ethan's pit grew deeper and deeper. 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet. The walls of earth surrounding him ascended higher than his head. Ascending in and out required the rope now marked with 22 knots, but still no water, not even moist soil, just dry, taunting earth. The other villagers began to speak more openly now. "Ethan has become deranged," they stated. "He's squandering his energy. He should be discovering other employment, not excavating a pointless pit." Even his own sibling visited and stated, "Ethan, this is absurd. You've been excavating for over 2 months. If there was water, you would have discovered it by now. Accept truth and proceed." Ethan's children ceased inquiring about the well. They had learned not to anticipate. Late one night, Ethan sat at the boundary of his pit, his legs suspended into the darkness below. His body was a chart of fatigue. Every muscle protested, every joint throbbed. His hands were so injured they trembled when he attempted to grasp a cup. He whispered to himself, "What if they're correct? What if I'm merely a fool excavating a pit to nowhere?" The following morning, Ethan descended into the pit for what he had determined would be the final time. One more day, he told himself. Just one more day. If I discover nothing today, I'll fill it in and acknowledge defeat. He raised his shovel. The sun was already scorching hot above him, even though it was barely morning. Perspiration dripped into his eyes. His entire body objected with every movement. 3 hours of digging, nothing. 6 hours, nothing. By midday, Ethan's shovel struck something firmer than typical. Not stone, just more compressed, stubborn ground. He attempted to drive the shovel through it. It barely penetrated. He attempted again. On the fourth strike, the shovel handle fractured. Ethan stood there staring at the damaged tool in his bleeding hands. The handle had split right down the center, worthless now. And in that instant, something inside him fractured too. He hurled the damaged shovel against the wall of the pit and screamed into the vacant earth, "Enough! I've sacrificed everything. I have nothing remaining." His voice reverberated back at him, taunting. Silence. Just the sound of his irregular breathing and the distant cry of a bird overhead. Ethan sat down in the dirt, put his head in his hands, and felt tears cascade down his dusty face. "I'm finished," he whispered. "I cannot do this anymore." He gazed up at the circle of sky far above him. Freedom, the surface. The conclusion of this nightmare. All he had to do was ascend out and never return. As Ethan prepared to ascend out, he heard footsteps above and the sound of equipment being positioned down. "Surrendering? Are you?" Ethan looked up. An elderly man stood at the boundary of the pit, silhouetted against the brilliant sky. He wore the dusty garments of a traveling craftsman and carried a well-digger's pack on his back. "Who are you?" Ethan called up. "Name's Ralph. I excavate wells for a living." The elderly man replied. "Was traversing through your community when I heard about the insane farmer still excavating for water. Thought I'd see if you were still at it." He peered down into the darkness. "Appears I arrived just in time." Ralph didn't descend down. Instead, he sat at the boundary of the pit, his legs suspended over the side, gazing down at the exhausted man below. "Young man," he called out, "show me the earth at the tip of your damaged shovel." Ethan placed a clump of dirt into the bucket and hauled it up. Ralph caught the bucket and rubbed the soil between his fingers, examining it carefully in the sunlight. He brought it close to his face, smelled it, even touched it to his tongue. After a prolonged moment, he gazed down at Ethan. "What's your name, son?" "Ethan," he replied, his voice hoarse from screaming. "Well, Ethan, my name is Ralph. I've excavated 47 wells in my existence, and I know this soil." He held up the dirt for Ethan to see. "You're striking blue clay, son. It's the firmest, deepest layer in this valley. It's the crust that restrains the moisture down." Ethan stared up at him, too exhausted to experience hope. "Most individuals quit here because the terrain feels like iron," Ralph continued. "They swing harder and harder, attempting to break through with force, and they simply exhaust themselves." He let some of the clay fall through his fingers. "But look closely at this clay, Ethan. Feel it in your mind. It's not like the dry dust you've been excavating through, is it?" Ethan shook his head weakly. "The clay is starting to feel cold. Colder than the sun-baked earth above you. It's not wet yet, but it's heavy, dense with moisture. It's been restraining for years. That weight, that's water attempting to push through." Ralph leaned forward, his weathered face serious. "Do you know what that signifies?" Ethan shook his head again. "It signifies you aren't miles away from water, Ethan. You are inches away from the aquifer, the river of sand beneath the clay. 4 inches, maybe 6. You were attacking the firmest 4 inches of clay in the entire well, attempting to break through it with brute force when your body had nothing remaining to provide." Ralph pulled a strong, intact shovel from his pack and lowered it down on the rope. "I cannot promise you there's water below this location. I'm not a prophet, but I can promise you this. If you quit now, you'll never know. And the not knowing will haunt you for the remainder of your existence." He gazed directly into Ethan's eyes. "Here's what I want you to do. Take this shovel, but don't swing wildly attempting to break through. Blue clay becomes firmer the more you attack it. Instead, excavate a narrow pilot hole in the center just 6 inches wide. Let the shovel do the work. Slow and steady. Let each stroke chip away just a little. Work with the clay, not against it. Ethan caught the shovel as it came down. It was heavier than his damaged one. Solid oak handle, well worn, but strong. If you discover nothing after one more hour of careful excavating, Ralph said, I'll come down and assist you fill this pit myself. You have my word. He paused. But if you discover water, I want you to promise me something. Never forget that you were inches away from surrendering. And when you see others ready to quit, you tell them this narrative. Ethan gazed at the wall of firm blue clay, then at the shovel, then at the elderly man's weathered, knowing face above. Something stirred inside him. Not hope. He was too exhausted for hope. But something else. Curiosity perhaps, or stubbornness, or just the simple thought, one more hour. I can accomplish one more hour. He positioned the shovel against the firm clay. This time, he didn't scream or swing wildly like he had been doing all day, exhausted and desperate, attacking the earth with everything he had. This time, he didn't combat the clay. He worked with it just as Ralph had instructed, carving a small channel in the center, letting the shovel do the work, slow and steady. 10 minutes passed, 20, 30. The clay was relentless, but Ethan kept his movements controlled, precise, each stroke removing just a little more. 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and then suddenly the sound transformed. The clink of the shovel against clay became a squelch against something different. Wet gravel. Ethan's heart jumped. He pulled the shovel back, and this time the blade was covered in shimmering gray mud. Not dust, not dry earth. He struck again, carefully widening the narrow pilot hole. More wet gravel. Mud. But there was no explosion of water. No dramatic gushing. Instead, a tiny pool began to form at the bottom of the pilot hole. It didn't rush, it seeped. Slowly, almost tentatively, water began to gather. Ethan stood perfectly still, watching as the mud settled and a clear, cold mirror of water began to rise. Inch by inch. Stop excavating, Ralph whispered from above. You've broken the seal. Go home. Let the earth do the remainder. But Ethan started. Trust me, Ralph said. The water needs time to filter through the layers of sand and gravel. If you excavate more now, you'll muddy it and disturb the flow. Let it rest tonight. Let the aquifer feed your well naturally. That night was the longest of Ethan's existence. He barely slept. Every hour he wondered, was the water still there? Had it drained away? Had he imagined it? The following morning, before sunrise, Ethan returned to his well. His hands trembled as he approached the boundary. He gazed down into the pit. Throughout the night, the aquifer had been feeding the well, water filtering up through layers of sand and gravel, filling the space he had carved. The pit wasn't vacant anymore. 6 feet of pure filtered water sat at the bottom, crystal clear, reflecting the early morning sky like a mirror. Ethan lowered a bucket on the rope he had marked with 22 knots. When he pulled it up, the water was so cold it made his teeth ache. So clean he could see straight through to the bottom of the container. He poured it back down. Within minutes, the level rose back nearly to where it had been. The aquifer was strong, constant, reliable. Ethan fell to his knees at the boundary of the well. He counted the knots on his rope, 22 feet from the surface to the blue clay. He had marked his advancement faithfully every single day, 22 feet of excavating over 10 weeks, and he had been ready to surrender with just 4 inches of stubborn blue clay remaining. 4 inches, the thickness of his hand. He had quit just 1 careful hour away from a lifetime of water. Within hours, the entire community gathered around Ethan's well. The water was so abundant that it formed a small stream running across his land. Women filled their containers. Children splashed and played for the first time in years. Elderly men wept. The community elder examined the well and proclaimed, "This is the strongest water source in the entire territory. It will never run depleted." Ralph stood at the boundary of the crowd, observing with a small, satisfied smile. When Ethan caught his eye and attempted to thank him, the elderly man simply nodded, shouldered his pack, and walked away down the dusty road, disappearing as mysteriously as he had appeared, off to find the next person who needed to learn that they were closer than they thought. My friend, Ethan's narrative is your narrative too. Right now, you might be standing in your own pit. Maybe you've been excavating for months or years. Maybe your hands are bleeding. Maybe everyone is telling you to surrender. Maybe you're so tired you can barely lift the shovel one more time. And maybe, just maybe, you're 4 inches away from water. Here's what I need you to comprehend. The moment you most want to quit is often the moment right before breakthrough. Not always, but often enough that quitting should terrify you more than continuing. The cruelest thing about success is this. It doesn't send a messenger to tell you you're close. There's no sign that states just 1 more hour. No voice whispering, 1 more attempt. The firmest layer, the layer that breaks most individuals, is often the final layer. So remember 3 things. First, firm resistance is not a halt sign. It's often a sign you're breaking through to something genuine. Blue clay isn't a wall. It's a door. The cold, heavy feeling signifies water is pressing from below, attempting to break through. Second, everyone who succeeds has a moment where they could have quit but didn't. You don't hear about those moments because they happened in private in dark pits with no one observing. But those moments, those are the ones that separated success from failure. Third, you don't need to see the water to keep excavating. You just need to determine that not knowing is worse than attempting one more time. That the question, what if I had attempted once more, would haunt you more than any failure. Here's my challenge to you. Whatever you're ready to quit, that venture, that ability, that aspiration, that relationship, that objective, provide it 1 more focused hour. Not 1 more month, not 1 more year, just 1 more hour of careful, deliberate effort, 1 more focused work session, 1 more honest conversation, 1 more day of appearing with intention, 1 more attempt with a superior technique, just 1 more hour. But here's the key. Don't attack it with brute force like Ethan did when he was exhausted. Modify your approach. Work with it, not against it. Be precise. Be deliberate. Be intelligent. Because here's the truth that will haunt you if you quit now. You'll never know how close you were. And that not knowing that what if, it weighs more than any failure ever could. You are not failing. You are excavating through blue clay. You are not lost. You are breaking through the firmest layer. You are not insane for continuing when others have quit. You are exactly where every successful person has been right before their breakthrough. Success and failure are often separated by 4 inches by 1 more conversation, 1 more attempt, 1 more hour of not quitting, 1 more modification in technique. The question is not am I talented enough or am I fortunate enough? The question is am I willing to excavate 1 more careful hour with a superior approach? If this narrative reminded you why you started, if it provided you the strength for 1 more hour, share it with someone else who's standing in their own pit, ready to ascend out. Tell them 1 more hour. The water might be closer than you think. Drop a comment and tell me, what are you providing 1 more hour? What aspiration are you refusing to abandon? Let's encourage each other.